What's up guys, it's Ian here, back today with another video, and today I wanted to deliver some clarifying remarks regarding a different video. I made a video, I think it was titled Animal versus Material Desires, and in that video my intent was not to tell you that you have enough or that you have too little. You could be anybody anywhere in the world watching that video. I don't know the state of your life. It was more just to provoke thought, so that way you would consider for yourself, do you have enough or not enough? Are your basic desires met? Are your basic animal desires met? And are your basic material desires met? It's possible that neither are, or both are, or that maybe you thought that they were not met, but upon closer consideration or more critical examination, that they are met. And maybe you considered the state of your life, and maybe as a result of watching that video, you became more grateful for the state of your life, right? So what I really meant was that, are your basic desires met? Do you have food, clothing, housing, some number of people who care about you? Hopefully now this Venn diagram becomes multiple Venn diagrams, and it is kind of asking a lot the more that I go down the list, because if any one of those things in this constellation of needs is not met, then yeah, it can create a large gap, and it can make it seem as if one's entire life is unsupported. Another important thing that I wanted to touch on is the concept of, do you feel like you have everything met, right? Do you have food and enough water and shelter? The intent of the video is not to try to convince you to become a farmer. Of course, in one's given household, you don't have enough food to last the rest of your life. That's unrealistic. The idea is that hopefully you have enough money to be able to have food security, and hopefully there's not a total system collapse. I wasn't necessarily implying that I want to move to a farm, but rather that owning a farm or some amount of land is an insurance policy against a monetary system collapse, right? So that way, even if the monetary systems and financial systems that we have around us in the United States in particular, if all of those systems collapse, but you have your own farm and some land and some animals to live off of, then you won't necessarily starve to death or go hungry, right? You'll be able to survive a while longer. That's kind of, a farm is like a euphemism for security, right? Food security. Money is a euphemism for food security as long as the system remains intact, but it is a fragile system, our system of farms and grocery stores and money that we have. And what if there's hyperinflation? What if you can't afford food? What if the stores stop receiving deliveries? What if any link in this chain can potentially break down, and you could lose your state of security. Another interesting thing that I wanted to touch on kind of ties to this overarching topic of, do you have the opinion that you have enough, or are you hungry for more? Not necessarily like a food hunger. Maybe if you're food insecure, then you do have a food hunger, and I hope that your life improves. But what I meant more is like a voracious appetite for material desires or physical desires. Are you looking for more out of life, right? Because everybody has a different rubric for what they consider needs met, or maybe you even feel like you have a little extra. Maybe you feel like you have a good life, versus somebody else with the same societal standing as you. They might be unsatisfied. They might not be happy with their life. And that's your opinion. That's your outlook on the world. And I don't want to sound negative. I think I've been getting a lot of feedback from people that my videos have been negative, But if anything, I feel like I'm trying to be positive. I don't want to brag, but I feel like I do have most of my basic needs met, and I'm very fortunate to have my basic needs met. So I wanted to clarify in this video that I'm very grateful, and I think that I have a pretty good life. Now, if I'm to compare myself to super rich people and people on social media, maybe I would develop the illusion that I don't have a good life, and I think that's largely a psychological operation. I'd be tricked into thinking that I don't have a good life. But honestly, I think that I have a good life, and the less that I look at social media, the less that I listen to terrible music and follow bad role models, the more that I'm content, and I feel like I have all my needs met, all my basic needs. Yeah, could I have my own house, or could I have cars and, you know, I don't know, more expensive things? Yeah, of course, but do I need those things? Probably not. It's an interesting concept, right? Because some people tell me like, oh, well, why don't you travel the world? And like, it doesn't appeal to me that much, right? The world seems dangerous. Maybe one day I'll travel the world, but yeah, it just seems like it would add an element of instability. It circles back to that voracious hunger, whether it's for material desires or experiences, animal experiences. Why do you want to travel the world? Maybe I should travel the world to go to Japan because I'm Japanese and I should experience it and see how the people are there. I hear that they're very nice. But I don't feel compelled. Well, maybe I should. Maybe as I say that I don't feel compelled to, maybe I do feel subconsciously compelled to, because that's where my ancestors come from. But ultimately, I feel like I have the things that I need right here. I don't have that voracious hunger. You know, one of my rich friends that I talk to sometimes, I asked him, why don't you drive like a really expensive car? Why don't you have get a 911 or something? And he's like, I don't like cars. I don't like fast cars. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually like very insightful, because from my perspective, if I had a massive windfall of money, I'd buy, I guess, houses. Maybe I'd set up a network of rental properties, and then I'd get sports cars. Like I love sports cars, or the idea of it at least. I come from bicycle racing, so I like going fast. I like to feel like I'm going fast. So that's just my perspective. So somebody asked me, why don't you travel the world? It doesn't appeal to me that much, right? And I asked my friend, why don't you buy sports cars? And he doesn't like the idea of sports cars. And that's another thing. Your concept of what may be enough or not enough, this changes as you move through your life cycle, right? As I said earlier, nobody has enough food in their house to live the rest of their life. You have money as a proxy for food, so your needs change over time. Maybe right now the idea of sports cars appeals to me, but maybe in 5 or 10 years I'll be like, oh, that's stupid and dangerous. It seems like a really easy way to kill yourself, right? Driving a fast car and wrapping around a tree, knock on wood. But anyways, this video has been long enough. I wanted to clarify, deliver some clarification, because I did have some questions from that other video. It wasn't my last video, but it was the video titled Animal Desires versus Material Desires. And, you know, this video is meant to touch on what is enough, what forms your opinion of what is enough, how does that change across time scales, across the life cycle. And yeah, drop some comments down below or message me directly. Let me know if you want any clarification on any of these points that I've covered, or if you want any specific topics covered in the next video. Once again, thank you for watching and have a good day.